Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another week of UFC breakdown and predictions, and feeling pretty good about this one. I know this isn't the best card, but we're coming off a really great card this past week, and we did really well on it betting wise. We've been doing really good betting wise the whole year, and there's a lot of events to bet on this week with Fury FC, PFL, LFA, Aries FC, UFC. A lot of events going on, and quite a few spots that I'm going to be targeting betting wise. So definitely check out patreon.com/MyPredictionGuru if you want to make some money. You know, we've been going up this year, but we're going to kick this card off right away here with JuanCamilo Ronderos taking on Clayton Carpenter for the first fight. And this is a pretty low level fight. It's not a fight that I'm too invested in. I think both fighters have holes. When you look at Ronderos, I think he had a really bad performance in his UFC debut, and it was tough circumstances. He went in against a top 10 fighter in David Dvorak, who was on a win streak at that time, peaking confident. He had very short notice chance to take the fight, and really was kind of given a no-win opportunity there. But you go and you look at JuanCamilo Ronderos' other fights, he's very tough. He comes in, he is always well-conditioned, and he's going to fight for your money and fight till the end, tooth and nail. So got to give him credit for that. And Clayton Carpenter, I think he's built from that same fabric. I think that he's one of those guys that also is willing to dig deep to get wins. And he showed a little bit of that in his last fight, but I just haven't seen it as much as I've seen it from Ronderos, because Ronderos tends to be in very close competitive fights where he has to claw his way back. But Clayton Carpenter had a lot of explosive finishes early. He's definitely the more dangerous fighter, the more athletic, powerful fighter, and he's someone that is pretty skilled. It's just his defense needs to improve, and he hasn't been tested too much yet. He's only 6-0. He's still very raw, in my opinion. And when you're a young guy at flyweight with, you know, a skill set that's not necessarily as polished as it needs to be, that's one of the worst divisions to be in, because both these guys are in that position, 4-1, 6-0, and you have to be so skilled at flyweight to stick around in the UFC that getting wins is extremely hard, and we're going to see what happens. But with Ronderos, he does have some championship experience. He does have a victory over Eric Shelton, who had a decent run in the UFC. But when you look at Ronderos, he's one of these guys that on the feet he's aggressive, and he'll throw some big punches, but he's not really that skilled, and he's definitely more of a grappler, but his wrestling is not very good. Like, he will be able to get guys against a cage, and once he wears them down, he can take them down, but he doesn't tend to be the best offensive wrestler. When he gets on top, he does have a fairly slick submission game, and he has good control, and his cardio is really good, so he can push the pace in that aspect. But his defensive wrestling is also very weak. You know, I've seen him get taken down at will in a lot of fights. And he's at the right gym, Extreme Couture, to fix that. But in none of his fights have I've really seen him show good takedown defense, UFC level takedown defense. And it seems like his ability off his back to scramble and get back up to his feet is good. It's very hard to hold down flyweights. And if you get tired from him standing up, and creating scrambles, he can eventually create a scramble and get on top, and that's how he can win fights. If you look at a lot of his fights, he ends up getting his back taken, and he's very good at, reversing that position and getting to top, so he could get his back taken, get taken down, and then reverse, get on top, and steal the round with control and ground and pound. And he also has very good cardio, like I said, toughness. So if guys get tired a little bit, then he can just take over and kind of break you. Clayton Carpenter, he is more skilled. He is like a switch stance guy, good footwork on the outside, good pressure. He bounces in and out, and he can mix it up too. He has good wrestling. His submissions seem all right. Very dangerous high kick, pretty good hooks. He has good speed, but he just doesn't move his head, and he squares up a lot. His defense just is not the greatest. And I haven't seen him tested much against good grapplers, good wrestlers. So those are the two things that he's going to need to really show that he can defeat in the UFC. On his Contender Series fight, he did win, but he had to go through a hard fight. He got clipped a lot. I believe he got knocked down or dropped, if I am recollecting correctly. So he Definitely needs to shore up that defense, but with Ronderos, I don't necessarily see him as a huge threat in the stand-up. He's not technical enough to be that dangerous, in my opinion, and it's going to be more if Carpenter pressures him and feels comfortable striking. I'm not saying Ronderos isn't going to get any shots in. I just don't know if he has the power, and I don't know if he has enough to compete with Clayton, who does mix it up with the kicks and will bounce in and out, explode in and out with some punches, and I think he's going to have the more dangerous offense on the feet, the better offense, and the more volume. So I think it's going to be tough for Ronderos to really compete on the feet. But if they get it to the ground and Ronderos can create scrambles and get on top, then he could potentially steal the fight that way. I don't see him being able to take Carpenter down and get on top from offensive wrestling. So I do see this as Clayton Carpenter's fight to lose. I think Carpenter also comes in great shape, so Ronderos doesn't have the ability to wear him down, I wouldn't believe. So I'm going to say Clayton Carpenter ends up getting this win. I'm going to say it's a decision win in this one. I know that Ronderos got ran through pretty quickly against David Dvorak, but it was short notice. Like I said, he was facing a very high-level guy. He missed weight. I don't think he was prepared. This one, he's going to be 100% prepared. I think he's going to be very determined, and I think he's going to be tough. Like, I think he's going to make the fight hard. Kind of like you watched that fight with Don Shanis last week against Jack Jenkins. Similar to that, where it's like he's a step behind, but he's always in the fight, and he's, semi-dangerous. But I think Clayton is going to be able to control it. It's just Clayton's defense makes me a little weary to back him at a minus 300 price tag, but ultimately I think he's going to be able to mix in some takedowns too, and I see his top control and grappling being good enough to offset the scrambling ability of Ronderos and keep that position. So I'm going to say Carpenter wins a fairly comprehensive 29-28 or 30-27 decision here and moves to 1-0 in the UFC.